You know what, my plan is.
It's not attached. One of mine is legal, so
Easy, you know, I got it right.
Okay, yeah.
Even Dixie, who put her Oscar, which I you know, everything out. So first thing can do her head.
And then communication.
So they around, so they know what they have to do. We can't have this without this structures. Yeah.
Hey, you guys, I think Savannah was gonna do our thought and prayer today, and she's not here. Is there anybody that has a thought and a prayer in their heart and mind? No? Anybody want to share what they put on the reflection on their e-prep for today? What about you guys? Anybody want to share what you put on your e-prep on your reflection for the thought? We'd love to hear from you, not me. Just a quiet group. Everybody's kind of in their zone. Does anybody want to say a prayer?
I'll say the prayer.
Oh, thank you. Bless it. Everyone will do well on their HESI preparation.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this day, and we're thankful that we can gather today as nursing students. We're thankful that we are coming to the end of the semester, and pray that thou will be with us and help us to finish strong, and thankful for our teachers and for the efforts they put forward on our behalf, and pray that thy Spirit will be with us and that we'll be able to learn the things that we need to. And we're thankful for all that thou hast done for us. We pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Denise. The information we have this week we thought was pretty important for you all. Maybe not necessarily just as nurses, but as parents and as community members. And we're really glad that we are able to present this before your HESI. Again, we don't know what's on your HESI, but there seems to be a lot of principles involved in school nursing, and then just understanding the roles and how we function out in the community. To start off with, we have the roles that we looked at this week were in school nursing, home health and hospice, and in parish nursing. Has anybody had any experience in those before? Emily?
I volunteered at a hospice just as a volunteer, and when I was in middle school, I had to go visit the school doctor every day for my type 1 diabetes.
Okay, okay.
A little bit.
So was there a school nurse there?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have school nurses in your schools growing up? I read a few that did, but they just thought they just sat in there and kind of took care of bandaging and different things. My daughter works in a local school here, and they don't have a school nurse there. And I said, well, what do you do? And basically they just send them to the office, and whoever's in the office either calls the parents or they try to provide whatever first aid they can. My daughter's had a couple broken arms in her classrooms. You know, of course, all the kids just run to her and say, you know, somebody's hurt really bad. And, you know, they all care about each other deeply in first grade. But anyway, so they're very, very concerned. But like with little kids in the classroom, they don't, you know, she's had little kids that are, you know, they say, I don't feel very good. Next thing you know, they're projectile vomiting. So she's gotten in the habit where if they say they don't feel good, they'll say, go get the garbage can and put it right by you, because she doesn't want to have, you know, throw up everywhere. But there's a lot of dynamics to school nursing, and I'm sure you probably figured that out. So as we start out, one of the first things I want to do today is I want to get into 4 teams, and we're going to have you go to the board, and if you had to explain what each one of these kinds of nursing was, could you tell somebody? And in that, keep in mind the roles and functions of what they do, whatever skills they might need, services that they provide. We can't tell this very much, but clientele diagnosis. If you're looking at primary, secondary, tertiary, put down what you think that would be, and you know what kind of diagnosis would fall under those things. What's the payment source? And this right here just says examples of primary, secondary, and tertiary. So let's have you, let's see, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 14. So if we do 3 groups, let's do home health and hospice together, and school nursing and parish nursing. Let's have you 4, you guys do school nursing, is that okay? And then you 5, maybe you join these 4 girls here. And let's have you do home health and hospice, and then the rest of you will do parish nursing. And I'll give you some time to get all this up, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna have you rotate to each other's boards and see if there's anything you can fill out in there, okay? And I have a case study that goes along with each one that you can take into account. As you're working as a group, write in the same colors. So you guys can choose whatever color you want to be. Okay? You guys agree? Let's see, I guess this color should include Evan.
So I'm gonna be very blunt. This is like the most ineffective way of doing groups and learning. Like, when we do this, we don't know exactly what we're looking for, and so when we
We
do
were
this
supposed to
one.
put those kind of things based on what you read. You can use your e-print, you can use your book.
So to use this, I was looking forward to this. I'm ready.
Does everybody feel the
Is this the group? I'd rather just see exactly what I need to know. How to
I
just-
can't tell if you right.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I just thought it's like comfort. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So we're pairs.
In kindergarten,
Here's 2 little pieces.
I didn't know this.
all right.
Holistic approach to health.
She visited the kindergarten classrooms just before.
They
What is it?
holistic approaches and all different colors.
It is a different color.
Try to differentiate between the home health and hospice if you have.
I know. Okay, so this is like the
Really?
So home health is
Medicare, what is the Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance, or private way?
I thought it was
I know it's but I don't know, so we
well, they have to see with other
Sorry, that's not your time.
Yeah, that's all right, so long, yeah. Is there any other factors?
several years.
So lab with everyone else.
Uh,
Oh, there we go. So that's so bad. Like they have to have.
They have to do it.
Oh,
So like,
They're also communicating with like
this.
yeah.
Not just groups, sermons, practices within the home. So.
Like priesthood lessons.
I don't know if some of you-
I didn't know that, I didn't know that.
Okay, so.
We do.
I guess I kind of go to
I didn't look at it, I didn't look
right?
at it,
Well, I
but I just thought that.
I just started working there. My dad was for home health.
Probably have the most fair shares.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, listen.
Just the public, yeah, just the community.
So,
It's
the same as.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear?
What, I'm sorry, what was the home
If I pay bills.
Oh, yeah. St. Mary's Hospital. Did you guys, nurses? Did you have nurses?
Do they consider that like a?
Oh, they, the video they
Do they
showed.
deliver to, like, the covenant, and the lady was saying that if you have a sweet face, you're almost kind of doing a little mini wheelchairs.
Yeah. So that's kind of.
Anyway, but I just wondered, it's kind of like.
I've heard that, home health, most people have found people.
I'm sure that the
Yeah.
school
Well,
will.
she was ill.
Well, one lady, I guess, so maybe she
Like, she called
That's a good question, are you asking me?
Yeah.
I think, we have parents out. in
Yeah,
the
come on, Alex.
So like my daughter has, she says that there's two primaries in school, and she says that they just bring a little backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, so patient the nurse gets paid food, the school, that school, it's like they do grants where if, I think there's one that we actually submitted by the hospitals, which was kind of my.
You have to
have, they have, prescription grants that help to pay, you have to have a doctor's order and actually it's not very.
Oh, yeah, right.
Foot care.
So I, so with that, is that money to for her?
Just if I do that, well, the insurance doesn't have to pay for the school nurse, they just have to make sure that whatever medications and supplies that we like. I would think like if you had to have Band-Aids and like sprints or different things.
This shine.
Part of the,
Okay,
budget.
what else, guys?
they
What do you
have
need to do
for
primary, secondary?
It all depends. Somebody did a project.
Yeah.
On physical education, says, you know, what school you go to. You know, sometimes if you have schools in a really wealthy area, you need to have a lot of outlets, but if you don't, then you can kind of lose.
Unit source, football.
I guess about the benefits.
You think, well, look at that primary prevention, so.
does the
I don't know what they call it.
Like,
I think that it's probably covered through the hospital. This would be covered through the hospital.
So,
Yeah.
so can I just
What
look
happens
at,
is,
like,
I'm sure it goes through similar.
well, it's the scope.
I mean,
It's
heck,
the scope.
like,
Blood
you know,
insurance, insurance. So as long as we're following those, we're using the best evidence, you know.
So is that a calling within the church that is still, so they work on for their income?
So if that was the question, you think they would bring their own lunch?
I think so, I think that's what they required. I talked to, you guys have Anna Lodge in your middle simulations.
Yeah.
She's helping with them now, and she's a school.
Oh, Randy, Randy.
And so it's a whole different instructor, and she's like got several years on trades, and a lot of them have feeding tube things. And she has to get that.
We'll probably take it again.
You know, she goes to 3 different schools. You know, there's any problems, there's some people that are kind of trade reading. One of the biggest things she has to educate them is if they're having, if they're sick or having problems, that's something they can say that they won't find.
It's kind of redundant.
Okay. She can't spend.
Primary, secondary, tertiary,
Watch out for.
There you go.
Yeah, it's amazing some of the things you think that you would.
Primary,
What's the level of education you should have?
That's how you should.
More, kind of more cloud, I guess, to say, and it just, it gives you extra training and just having experience what you come back. Anything that you do, if you can get a certification, like certification for nursing education.
But tertiary is.
Like the certification for ostomy, certification for cancer. And so if you go into those.
Secondary, because it's preventing further.
So you guys are actually
And like I say, sometimes it just helps to have specialized training for where you're gonna work.
Oh,
That's the majority of your book, if you guys have your book, you can use that.
It's primary, like, do you agree with our relative primary? I feel like that's primary. Maybe sometimes like screening. Would you say something like that or?
Screening for it.
Talk about
Because
like.
if they are, and that's for conversations. I know, like, there was question.
Oh, wait,
No, that's him.
I think like you can ask what you did before,
Yeah, question. So versus like secondary, there's like after is different, but then what can we do like just educating them of what it's gonna look like? Yeah, but like actually, yeah.
So if you're teaching about
So you have to be really thorough in your education. Like not just educating students.
For what? For sure.
I was like, wow, that's good.
I know.
Tertiary was really nice after it's out.
Usually frail or elderly people that just can't.
Man, that's.
They call it a tax. That's a great word. My dad was on home health and he's
So how are we?
75-year-old
Okay, so I remember
that can get out and go, but
I do not.
when you come on home health, you they do.
Is that like nursing or is that more?
They find out that it's
Like assessing developmental skills from them, but
I don't get it.
I get a call in the middle of the night, so we got a call today and they said.
Really, I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, when I went home, what do we do? Yeah, so they give the keys and they.
like what's that?
So they see how but she still has to and she was and so.
We know it.
Wound care, IV,
Because they're treating.
So is it?
Well, I think yes, no, I wanna say yes.
So CNA do a lot of ostomy care.
And you're never about the.
Okay, so it has.
So,
She's at it. Oh, we never did
I
this.
don't know, that's one, yes.
it went in the home though. It just depends on your, again, okay, so what regulations?
I don't know, that's my guess.
Just go to the practice. So, depending on what it says, and every state is different.
I would say.
Well, it's supposed to be consistent throughout. Health agencies, allow our CNAs to do different things depending on whether it's for skill or not. Unless they're unstable.
Wait, no. It's not. What is that? So it's like.
That's gotta be.
There's one thing that was in our. I just. LPNs, they do.
Wound care, a lot of wound care is like physical therapy specialists, because medical will be what unless you have a wound therapist.
Which I mean, I can take a couple
That, like with the
With
specialist.
this one, no. And it's our fourth semester. Either way, it's full like, even on site for D, they would still like have to go to some.
Are you guys ready to rotate? Let's go ahead and rotate to the next one. See what you can add to it. You can pause right now. Okay, yeah. Oh, good question. You guys are coming over. Okay, it looks like we're rotating down sides.
You know, I did every chapter.
That's my Thursdays. On Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have.
Wait, Alex, I have our marker.
Oh, well, okay.
Good job. We bring it, yeah. As long as it's blue, just we just want to know what you added in, so if you need
But it's still good.
Well, so are they're about to.
Oh, well, I put this, National Association of School Nurses.
Oh, nice, okay. See, those like associations, I don't know what it is. I mean, that yeah.
In fact, the first week that took it, I came back to the meeting, there was more med surg than anything. And we're like, oh, wow. So it's like med surg in the community more, but yeah, it might want to know that you have an elderly person.
Because I would think about going over like the key stuff.
I would tell you to go over your remediation from fundamentals and med surg. No, I mean, like even if you just go over it, that's, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I know. I kind of put you guys on our page. I'm like, well, we don't have a surgeon. Yeah. I get part and they don't say very much.
Change. So I mean,
And you're gonna be that next true. Yeah. Have you guys ever had something? Yeah. Your arm is still on.
They are so. I know, anyway, well, the thing is, they're worried, they just text the test.
Yeah. Yeah, I just.
brain or anything.
Well,
Oh, really? Any other screening you guys are doing? Under secondary right now? Yes, that's a huge Sometimes when you think of school nursing, you have to think of high school nursing too. Anything you'd be concerned on with that? No, the big goal for school nursing is to be available for people who come out.
And then you just refer them.
Yeah, teach before.
Education, good job.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't do. No.
Yeah. Cause like, with my but if you ask somebody that is not, they want to.
No, again, if they complain about what you do. Yeah, there's where your referral, if you have your enrollment function, if you are a referral, you'll do referrals.
What?
Oh, yeah.
So do the school nurses have a lot of the resources that hospitals, well, not, they don't serve IVs or
Their big thing is they have to do whatever they can to track the organizations to make sure they're up to date, because it prevents kids from coming to school.
Right, so they don't do any information.
Right, and they might trust them.
Oh, no, let me back up. Invasive, I know, I just, everybody has a lot of experience. She was in mental health, she did simulations for mental health, maybe she's a Smith. She's a vet, she does tracheostomy, section. She does. Goes to 3 different schools.
Oh, cool.
I did.
And you just have to have. So,
That's a good question. School nursing, yeah, it's schools can apply for grants and now
they don't
I mean, they started out like 36,000, and they were going I'm like, oh, you're increasing the.
We have distribute. I know, in grade school.
And is Sister Whitmer one here for you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I call them. Like, I know for a lot of stuff, it's not still attack on the board. I know, they're, like, partner, not mentors, but they're, yeah, can they do that?
Again, it depends on what the policy is that you have put up, but I think.
Cause I can see them doing it,
Yeah, and but you know who ends up doing most of everything is the school secretary. You know, they send them to the school office, and usually, you know, they you know, like I've done whatever they can. Yeah. It can be, yeah. You know, it's interesting, I recently did a project on school nursing, we kind of looked at things that, in California, they do it in 750, but it's not 750, it's like, it's way more, you know, they just don't, they can't get around everybody. You know, we're hoping that, you know, other than students that have a disability that needs some of these other things, you know, for the most part, you know, hoping parents take their kids to the doctor and get accidents and different things. So a lot of what they do is education. They feel like once they can get it into school, that will add to the so whatever things they can do to start to, you know, warn your body, your kids are going to be most at risk for that. School age up catalysis is the number one cause of death. I think they'll start to teach them about it just so they're aware. If parents aren't educated in that, they don't think to kind of anticipate and put things in place and follow up on seatbelt car seats and Out of the primary, secondary, and tertiary, which is the most largest responsibility? Out of primary, secondary, and tertiary, what's the largest responsibility of school nurse? Secondary.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, secondary. Screenings, huge improvement. You guys have screenings? I remember going to a speech therapy and get pulled apart after that. Well, I know, but they did the screenings and they compared like person or whatever. So like, I was coming to my side and be like, really?
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, we should have it.
Oh. Okay, done. Yeah.
It was interesting to read about that. Like centers that are big gone to schools where they're providing like, if that's the only screening and care it gets get, then that's pretty amazing. Yeah, yeah, we do want to move. You guys get a chance to do that? Okay, so one more rotation.
I'll say it when.
Ready?
Yeah. I want to go around the video.
I was like, very small when you were.
Alicia.
Alright, I need to make it.
This one might be different.
Yeah, so like.
Dialysis session.
Yeah, I was gonna do like a total That's like it's like Could you italicize that, please? No, yeah, the way you wrote it. Excuse me, can I take a picture?
Private patients.
Oh, for home health?
Who, Jamie, include me in that?
Where's?
There's evidence. They didn't pick it up. And then after that.
I think it's more than
But you always start from and then this one's second, and then.
Everybody asks me everything.
So.
Three things on
And people with kidney or.
The other two parts I had a lot, but I fixed them right after I got it. So yesterday I did fix three. That's good. I used to do that.
So Medicare, Medicaid.
So do they use that criteria?
So what?
She put the whole thing together and then.
Cancel.
They don't have to have all.
I would be.
No,
Yeah.
just-
I would.
Oh,
Yeah, you're counseling for.
They have to
We're
decide.
Yeah.
No, to have us as a 65 and older and monitor violence.
Okay, so
No.
they are just like, you need to say that they want to be happy.
Unless there's one thing, if they're unstable.
Unstable,
If
right?
they're unstable, but in.
What the heck? We have dogs on seven plays on there. I'm like, what? It's dumb.
There has to be skill to put on like
Oh,
what
yeah.
a sidewalk and how.
I'm like, you are
You have
Oh
to.
my God. Baby, still there. So I feel like, we had like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My sister. Because I did that, so she would set it up. I emailed her all the stuff. You should just put it together. I love you. I love you.
And the quality of the
I just could hear her. I love you.
Oh, yes. And they give me an extra person who wants to be careful house and it's been really
I
I
know, she always says she's like,
like,
well, after I had that little meltdown the first time, I went to her and I was like, we're still great, but oh, she's just, she's my mother-in-law. She looks like her. My mother-in-law's a little shorter, but they look alike. They have that. My mother-in-law would be like,
There's another part, like,
yeah, love you.
I guess if they have Medicaid will pay
I feel better. Well, but I'm still not like, if you're
laundry, they'll cook a meal, they'll go grocery shopping. I just talked about racing.
I say that. You can listen to me. Oh, pediatrics.
Well, like, I just remember doing that, like, even if they said they can, they're gonna have license. And then they just have baby care, like, pediatric specialty, not just, that's one of the worst, that's one of the worst things. No, Jason,
I do, yeah.
when people are in over there, I'm here to most for
Well, I consider just these pictures, I gotta read them. I know, that's what I was gonna do.
Yeah, they get in the process, they get to the hospital, and we have to go out and fill out this form, paperwork, and reassess to see where they are. Are they worse off, are they stronger?
No, I'm saying, like, like if they have
I wear masks all day,
and I like dread Thursdays.
Don't just go in and think, well, they're in the hospital, they're fine. They need to have reasons to determine how many yeah, you let the family know, here's my number. So if you see this, you can call and check on it. Yeah, there's a lot of different things. Yeah.
I don't want to.
So are you on call?
Hey, we can also somebody. Okay, good job. There's a lot to all of these kinds of nursing. roles in the community. As you can see, you start talking about one thing and all of a sudden it leads to a lot of other questions. So with school nursing, does anybody know what the #1 absenteeism for school age kids are? Asthma. Yeah. So as a school nurse, we try to do what we can to make sure that there's not triggers that can cause problems with students that have asthma, and recognize that, who does have asthma, what kind of things can we do to help them out with that. Anything else, any aha moments with school nursing?
Maybe we turn the camera so everyone else can see it.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Michael never did. I'll let you do it.
I just posted it on Facebook right now.
Oh, that's cool, thanks.
Can't see it.
No aha moments with school nursing, we know all about school nursing.
I didn't know they did TV screenings.
Okay, yeah. Sometimes if they get it done in a clinic, then the school nurse can read it, so they don't have to miss school to go get it read. Yeah, again, it's hard to, I think about school nursing where I grew up, and there was no school nursing that I can remember, but in bigger areas, probably back east, you probably see more with it as you have more resources. In Park City recently, they had some concerns where there were some field trips that were scheduled, and they had some diabetic kids, and they felt like they were a risk unless they didn't have enough teachers to go around to be able to watch those kids that had diabetes. And anyway, they had a meeting and different things, and they were able to open up positions for 2 school nurses up in Park City to help with the diabetic kids, just because they're starting to see more needs in it. So I think some of it just has to come from the school and the people that work in the school and say, hey, we need help. These children are, some of these things can be life-threatening if they're not managed right, and we don't want to have any harm happen. So we have roles and functions. There's a lot of roles and functions in every one of these roles, in every one of these areas, isn't there? Nursing requirements, most all of them wanted to have a bachelor's in nursing. And then if you go try to get a certification that helps you, it can maybe increase your wage in some places, but it just gives you that specialized training. So a certification adds some clout to what you do. Primary prevention, we have educating, ton of educating, right? They put a specific thing as hand washing, staff training, first aid, emergency plans, suicide prevention. What about substance abuse? What age do you think students start being exposed to school?
13.
Mhm. Yeah, I had some statistics that, one of the things that it talks about is just being aware of the latest drug fads. Okay, so I looked them up, I thought, I wonder what they are, I don't know. But they had 3 of them that they had, one was in inhalation, and I think they said that the biggest percentage of that was in 8th grade. It happened in Park City in the fall. I had some stuff off KSL News, that's why I know, but there were 2 teens that died 48 hours apart from each other. You hear about that? Somehow somebody had gotten a hold of this substance called pink, and they'd ordered it from Shanghai, China, and it was a powdered substance, came through the mail. One of the main ones that had one of the main students that had access to it had an addiction to opioids. And he had used it, but he didn't die. But these other 2 students that got access to it, they died within 48 hours. It was such a huge uprising. Do you know more about it? Or?
In Blackfoot, the paramedics came and did like a training and stuff because they're seeing like, they call it pinky or something.
Okay.
But it's like a really big deal because they had some kid die in Blackfoot from it too, and they busted like a huge ring in Salt Lake, and it all came from China.
Yeah, and you know what do we have now that maybe we all didn't have growing up? Well, you guys did, I didn't.
Amazon?
How do we order this stuff? We get it online. Anybody can have access to it. That's kind of the venue of how they're getting here. Anyway, the young man that supplied it, he got charged with with the deaths. Let's see, he wasn't charged with the deaths. He was charged with distribution of a controlled substance and reckless endangerment. And it's a felony, and he was 15, the 2 kids that died were 13, and the felony got dropped. He got 90 days probation, 80 hours of community service, $175 fine, and then he has to be randomly drug tested.
Yeah.
He did. I don't know that that would have helped the parents of those kids and who didn't have any idea. Anyway, so there was a site I went on to, it was kind of interesting. It was for high school counselors. And it had all of the different new trends in drugs, and some of them I was really surprised by. I had no idea. You know, they put in street names: China Girl, Dance Fever, TNT. And what that is it's a fentanyl, and it's the newest trend that the party drugs like marijuana and oxycodone are often laced with fentanyl to give them that extra punch. And this is what causes the teens to overdose because they are used to just doing the other things. They have something called Flocka, which is bath salts. Have you heard of those? Bath salts. Flocka is bath salts to the extreme. In fact, they say that the effects are so severe, the only way to bring them down is to sedate the user until they come back to reality. Caffeine powder, they say 1 teaspoon of caffeine powder is equivalent to 25 cups of coffee. That's out there. Oh, there's another drug called the devil's drug. Everything you need to know about street drug, Flocka Superman pill. So PMMA, and it's kind of like an ecstasy. Superman pills are legal. It says because the drug works slower than this MDMA, they make the decision to take more, which makes them have an overdose. Purple drink. This has a prescription cough medicine. You guys know what that is?
Yeah.
Well,
Do you want to share with us?
Probably from a joke, but I remember I learned because I went to the crisis center in Idaho Falls, and I only had 1 patient the whole time there. It was just and so I read they have SAMSA, something about the substance abuse and addiction drugs. There's like so many volumes of this, but I read up all on bath salts. And they have all some crazy names.
A lot of stuff out there that we don't know. The purple drink actually is cough syrup that's mixed with soda and hard candy. And they say because it's so accessible that they've had a bunch of kids in Texas and Florida that have talked about abusing that. And then the other thing that I thought was kind of crazy was this thing they call farm parties. And they call it Skittle parties, where you go in there and there's this big bowl of all these different colors of medications and you can just pick out and choose what you want to. Think how dangerous that is.
We were told that also, like, in my new trend is like they're taking Adderall with this new red light energy drink. And they have like a high that's just like crystal meth if they do that.
Wow. So there's a lot of things out there as a school nurse that you would want to be aware of and be able to, but not only as a school nurse, but you as nurses, if you're working in the hospital, if you're working in different areas, you need to be aware that if you start seeing kids that all of a sudden change their behaviors and their patterns and stuff, a lot of this is primary prevention. We don't want our kids injured. We don't want them having substance abuse. We don't want them to miss out on any vaccinations, and then also we worry about disease management and educate on that as primary. Secondary, that's one of the largest areas that they work with in school nursing. You've got the vaccinations, or the screenings, sorry, not vaccinations, scoliosis, pediculosis, do you know what that is? Lice. Yeah, be familiar with that little name. So at secondary, we take care of emergencies in the school. I don't think I've ever been to a school that has oxygen tanks. They maybe do. I don't know. Has anybody seen oxygen tanks at schools? Other schools. Giving medications at school. What do you think about that?
What?
Giving medications at school. I think you wrote those kind of things. Yeah. Yeah. I've given ibuprofen to nursing students and it scares me because I think, oh, if anything happens, so I always show them the bottle. I'm like, Casey, this is ibuprofen, and I let them take out what they want. And something simple as ibuprofen is scary to me to give out just because, You know, you just wouldn't ever want anybody to have it, but yeah, there's some recommendations on that. I think out of all of these, if you just remember that we need to follow best practice in nursing. You know, we have the scope and the standards that help guide us to make sure that we're following recommendations. Question?
In the book, it looked like secondary versus tertiary prevention in school nursing is kind of different from what we've seen in others. Can you just kind of go over that?
Sure. So, and that's kind of what we're doing right here in school nursing. We're talking about the secondary. So you have all of the screenings, lice, scoliosis, vision, height, weight, hearing, all that kind of stuff. Then taking care of emergencies, identification of child abuse and neglect. That's huge in every, grade all the way up into school. And then I saw somebody had put for suicide. What did I see that? Yeah, watching, checking to make sure that we're looking for that.
What type of prevention was the checking for child abuse?
Secondary.
That's secondary.
If you're kind of screening, you're looking at the kids, you're seeing, are they dressed correctly? I just watched a little YouTube about a teacher that, she was featured on Ellen. And she says that she starts her day out asking, has everybody had breakfast? And if not, she gets it for them, and do they have clean clothes? I mean, she just really takes, looks out for those things and takes care of them if they didn't have it. There's some things you're gonna find out you can do things about, some things you can't, but we are a referral source. So if we see it, we have, the expectation that we'll report that. What about violence at school? What kind of violence? Bullying stuff?
Is that something the administration more deals with?
Well, I think, go ahead, Em.
Well, just like on the news, probably in the past week, I've read at least 2 articles about kids killing themselves because of people encouraging them to do it.
Yeah.
Like saying they're nothing, and like they send a text, like the last texts are from someone saying, why don't you just end your life and rid the world of yourself and stuff like that. So like, it's just like crazy what the technology is doing, allowing them to increase their cyberbullying and aspects like that.
Yeah, that's scary that there's that much peer influence on there. I think that as a school nurse, we would probably need to identify those students that we think might act out in a violent way. Any kind of relationships and different things that we come across, but to make sure that we're looking, whether they're, very vocal, whether they're, victimizing other people and different things, is just try to make sure that you watch that. There's been a lot of school shootings that are out and about, so that's another thing.
So in the book, it was talking about, like if the kid has a DNR or something, but there's no nurse on site, isn't that kind of scary?
Well, I think they have to understand the they obviously have training. The schools do have trainings on some things. This is an ethical issue. There's a lot of ethical issues that happen in the school system. And so, if they have the proper documentation in place, then it would just be that they would follow whatever the legal paperwork is.
No, I didn't even know, I was shocked about that, because I thought, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, you would never think about kids dying in school, but some of them have, terrible disabilities and born with different things that could cause them to have that problem. And so hopefully, before they're, as they're being admitted into school and they're doing individualized education plans and doing all those things and trying to set up what's going to make them have the best education, that's taken into consideration.
Do you think it's a liability if, because like if your kid has to have medication every day or whatever, I think they give it to the office or they have to have a prescription, and they have to show the prescription, but is it a liability to just have the office lady handing out meds to the student?
I think, again, it does come down to a lot of responsibility. I think that's the one person I wouldn't want to be in the school nurse, or the school secretary or whatever it is, because there is that, you think you give them just ibuprofen, the next thing you know, they're throwing up, you're thinking, oh, what happened? So I think that parents need to realize that, what? You're sending your child to school, we don't have a school nurse, we will do our best to contact you and then do whatever, is in the policy to do to follow through with that. But no, there probably is some kind of liability, especially when there's things going on that we don't know about, like trends and fads and different things, and unless they're gonna trust you, we need to be trustworthy. We need students to come and tell us different things. And hopefully then we're aware of the other things that could possibly make the situation worse. School crisis teams, you know, so if there's anything bad that happens at schools, and they'll have crisis teams to help, and those were the secondary. For tertiary, that's when you have, what are some diagnoses for tertiary? In school?
Diabetes.
Yep. Asthma. What's huge right now? What's the, well,
Like ADHD.
yes, yeah, autism or ADHD, those are both things, and so we just wanna make sure we've got communication set up for them. You know, that we have a plan of care to make sure that we're meeting those needs for those students, finding out that they have appropriate behaviors, following up, you know, with the best way we can. Then you have the students that have special needs, and those would be those that need trach care or, you know, G-tubes, those kind of things. We go to home health and hospice. Really quick, just to touch on parish. Parish is probably more common back east. I read a lot of e-preps that said, I didn't even know this even occurred. Probably more common back east, although I had one experience going over to the Idaho State Board of Nursing, and it was when we had to propose that we wanted to go to a baccalaureate degree. So we were at one of the big board meetings, and when we were there, the room was cram-packed. It was like all the way around, and it was all nurses, and they were one form or another parish nursing. They all weren't from the same place, but they were all parish nursing. And what they had come to do, at the time, there was a recommendation that we start to request that nurses have CEUs that are mandatory in order to keep your license in Idaho. Right now, they aren't. But somebody had put a proposal forward saying that you have to have CEUs. Well, do you guys know what CEUs are? Continuing education units, yes. So those are expensive. Those are expensive. So you think about all these nurses are out there doing these amazing things, not being paid, and now we're saying, oh, in order for you to do those, you have to prove you're a nurse, you have to do these continuing education units. And so they were there to give testimonials throughout the, to kind of fight against this proposal, saying we can't afford to do this. We don't work in a hospital that backs us, that can help provide those opportunities for the CEUs. And so it's kind of interesting to see how many there were. There's more, you know, over in Boise, so more there. But I know they're around and they have a great purpose. You know, we do a lot of this as Release, you know, in your e-preps, there was some great answers as Relief Society president or Relief Society sisters. You know, we do prayers, we do, you know, they talked about sacraments, you know, sacrament can be taken to patients in the home. So there's a lot of things that kind of mirror just what we do with our religion, and helping provide the needs for the parish nursing. Spiritual dimension, that's the main thing that goes along with parish nursing. Real quick with home health and hospice. Home health and hospice is really, can you tell me out of community oriented or community based what that is?
As a community what?
Community oriented or community based? Based, why? Home health is in the homes, but why is it based? Illness, it's illness based to one person. It's not necessarily to a whole population of people. So this one is considered community based. And in order to qualify for home health, you have to have a physician's order, has to be a signed physician's order. You have to be homebound. You have to have a diagnosis that would make you eligible for that. You have to have an unstable kind of a situation, and it has to be intermittent care. We don't want to replace the hospital or some kind of assisted living. We just want to go in and provide intermittent care. So skilled need is what I said. It can be skilled nursing, it can be physical therapy, it can be occupational therapy. We usually put a social worker in right off the bat. They can help get resources for the patient, and they start to look at, you know, what do we need to do to get this person off service? We have to be cost conscious to make sure that, you know, because the home health agency only gets a certain amount of money to take care of this patient for this period of time. Usually it's a 9-week period of time, and in that 9 weeks you try to meet your goals. If you can't, you contact the doctor and get an order for another 9 weeks. Let me think, what else do you need to know about this? We don't like to have readmissions. If you're readmitted for something they were discharged from, unless it has something else to do with something else, then Medicare won't pay for that. Homebound, you can't drive. That's one of the hardest things for patients. You just have to say, okay, you can't drive. I even had somebody that wanted to be on their four-wheeler to go change water. And I'm like, if you can be on a four-wheeler and go change water, then you can go to the doctor's office or different things to get that service. And so you have to make sure. Home health agencies are usually accredited, meaning that they have to meet certain criteria to show that they are a quality company, and that's the company you want to provide care for you. I think that's about it. Hospice, looks like you've done a good job. Hospice versus palliative care. Palliative is more symptom management. Hospice is where you're providing care not only for the patient, but for, the significant others there, and it can go up to a year. So, any questions on the case studies? You guys had a question here about the first aid. Somebody had a question about the first aid, what you would want them to know. It was providing education to 6th grade students on basic first aid on the playground. Did you have that answer? No. D, knowledge of first aid would allow the children to help in an emergency situation while adults are being summoned. Okay. Any other questions on those as you go? Go ahead.
We didn't get any.
Oh yeah, those were at the different stations. Sorry. You know what? They're on the Prezi. I have all of the case studies, so I'll post this and so you can go into them and have the questions and then it has the rationale. Okay. So if you didn't do them, that's okay. The only one I don't have on there was the one about what would happen if you were an RN and you were over a CNA and you saw that she wasn't doing her work. And that one you have more from leadership on that one, but it's good to know because you'll be over providers that are underneath you that you're working with, and you want to make sure that you're overseeing them and they're meeting the requirements they need to as well. Okay. All right. Any questions?
It's not really for this lesson, but for that scene, could you post like the Healthy People 2020 goals on like the Facebook page or something? Just because
The Healthy People 2020 goals?
Yeah, like their main goals and stuff.
I just tell you what. You know what? If you go to Healthy People, the
I know, I
second.
showed Jamie, I'm just saying that's what they're asking for.
Yeah, it's the second tab over. It says LHI, Leading Health Indicators, and you'll find them all there. Okay. All right. Good job, you guys. Good luck on your HESI.
We'll need it. Thank you.
I know, I only have I'm not sure.